Hi, and welcome to everyone that is listening, but also watching on this podcast or videocast, so to say. I'm here, and I'm also very happy to be here with Adam Troy. So warmly welcome, Adam.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
A pleasure to have you here. So to start easy on you with this conversation, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm used to working a lot in front of my computer, so there's that anyway. But at the same time, we're getting close to summer, and I'm longing for some time off. I gotta confess.
Yeah.
You doing all right at your end?
I'm doing very well, thank you. And to give more context to everyone that is watching and listening, right now we're in the end of June, and I guess this is time for both of us that are based in Sweden at the moment that the weather is getting warmer and warmer.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, cool. So before I'm actually going to ask more questions about yourself, I thought we could warm up with some quick 5 questions that I would like to call it, quick fives.
Yeah.
So just, easy questions. So this is going to be easy for you.
Good.
All right. Let's go with the first question. Where are you from?
Well, I live in Uppsala. I've lived in Uppsala my entire life, but both my parents are American, so I'm a dual citizen. So I'm both American and Swedish.
All right, cool. And Uppsala, for those that aren't aware of where that is, where would you say that would be if people haven't been to Sweden before?
I'd say in the middle, just north of Stockholm.
All right, and Stockholm is the capital city for those that are not aware of that as well for Sweden. All right, second question. How old are you?
Oh, I haven't thought about that for a while. I guess I am 43.
Right. Yeah, maybe not a question you're always getting asked.
No, I don't think about that much.
All right, number 3, best sport in the world.
Well, I have to say floorball, of course.
and floorball is obviously a topic that we will dig into more later on in this conversation, so people stay tuned for that one.
Yeah.
So, 4th question, would you say you were a morning person or a night owl?
That's a good one. I guess I am a morning person by habit at this point. I usually wake up pretty early and get going.
All right, cool. And the last one, how many languages do you speak?
Well, 2 or 2.2. A couple words here and there of other languages, but basically English and Swedish.
Yeah. All right. I guess that wasn't too bad.
No, that was a good start.
Cool. So basically now, obviously, I would like to ask more about who Adam Troy is. Could you please tell us more about yourself?
Yeah. Well, Adam Troy, hardworking single guy who works a lot with floorball. I work for Storvreta IBK, one of the biggest floorball clubs in the world, I'd say. I also work for a social media production company called Salgado. I have worked for IFA Arena, but with the pandemic situation, of course, they've had to lay off 23 of 26 people. So I was one of them. I have founded USA Floorball. And right now I take care of the men's national team for USA Floorball and also the website and social media parts for that as well. And a film buff. I enjoy going to movies. It's tougher now, of course, and relaxing in front of the TV. But I do work quite a bit and I enjoy it.
All right, cool. And with regards to the movie part, I guess maybe it's a good time to also ask you, well, what's the favorite movie?
Oh, I don't have one specific. I like kind of escapism. I mean, the Marvel movies, Lord of the Rings, and but it's also very diverse. Matrix, just because of that showed up recently, and I recently saw Jojo Rabbit that I really enjoyed. I thought that was a really good movie. So it's a wide variety of films.
Cool. Yeah, I also really enjoy the Marvel movies and especially the Lord of the Rings movies as well. Great to hear that, Adam. So another question I have for you is your first sports memory.
Now, I came to sports actually late in life, as I have academic parents. Both my parents have worked at universities across Sweden, and it's actually probably when I was, I don't know, 16, 17 maybe, I saw a poster of Patrick Waugh, the former NHL goalie, at a friend's house. And I thought that looked really cool with his pads and his painted mask on and stuff. That's actually my first sports memory.
Okay, cool. And did you watch any games after that when you saw the poster?
We didn't have access to the NHL back then, but I did start more playing outdoors, what we call street bandy, which was basically, floorball, but then the goalies had the giant street goalie pads on and stuff. And so I played goal. We played 2-on-2 or 3-on-3 and had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, sounds like a good fun memory. I remember myself doing that when I was a kid, but I was was a long time ago. I played that sort of game before or earlier.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. And before we jump off to more about what you're actually doing, just wanted to ask you, how do you start your day?
How do I start my day? I probably start in a way I probably shouldn't, which is I grab my cell phone. It's right next to my bed, of course, and I cycle through the social media channels, probably Stuvreta's Twitter, my own Instagram, and that kind of thing. Check my email pretty quickly.
Yeah. Any special breakfast or anything after that?
No, nothing like that. Whatever I feel like.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So that was like the short introduction about you, Adam. And now I wanted to jump over to more about what you do and how you get in contact with what you do today.
Yeah.
And I would like to, to go back a little bit into how you actually ended up where you are today. So could you please, start from the beginning a little bit, how you got into the floorball job that you have to do today, for example?
Yeah. All right. So now let me think. That's a long story. I'll try to be specific. It actually goes back to a course I was doing, which was called Education, Media and Communication. Actually aimed at radio and TV. And part of that was to do kind of a project. And the project that I chose was to do highlights, at the time, video CD. I created a video CD of highlights of Storvreta IBK. And I got involved in Storvreta IBK for a while. But then I actually ended up moving. Now, I'm not sure the exact timeline, so you'll have to bear with me a little bit. But I ended up moving away from Uppsala for a while. I lived in Gothenburg. But then I felt like I wanted to come back to Uppsala, and actually reached out to Storvreta and asked them if they wanted help with their streaming, live streaming of games. Because this was at quite far back where live streaming was a thing, but it wasn't widespread. There weren't many clubs that did it. So I asked them. And I'd actually, at the time, while I was in Gothenburg, I was working with Pix på Wallenstam as a cameraman, basically, and did a few freelance things for them. And so I was asking Storvreta, do you need help streaming? And their club chef at the time, Kim Knudsen, came back with, no, we don't really need help with streaming, but can you update the website? And yeah, at the time I had worked a bit, or not worked, but I knew how to handle a website. I believe he said website and social media. I'd have to double check. And this was in 2012. And I said, yeah, I think I can handle that. And I believe it started with like a month or two of that. I'd write reviews of the games and I'd email him the texts and just to kind of show that I could handle it. And I ended up moving back to Uppsala. But of course, this wasn't a full-time job. This was just freelance. And I've also worked a lot at schools. So I worked freelance about kind of like a half-time job for Storvreta with their website, and what turned out to be a big part was social media. Of course, initially we had a photographer, but he fell off. And then I kind of did the pictures as well, and I do the videos. And after probably about, I think, must have been 2 or 3 years, I kind of said, I'm working so much. If you want me to work this much, then you need to hire me. And it probably took, it must have almost a year from when I actually asked the first time for them to kind of put all the pieces together to be able to cover a salary. And that's how it went down. Then I worked for Storvreta.
All right, cool. And also just to add to everyone that is listening, when you're mentioning Pixbo, for example, that was when you were in Gothenburg.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of interesting, how you can enter this area of, all of these content productions that have been just, increasingly like amazing how much there have been of a content of, the focus of content from the last few years, and that you started, I guess, when everything was just in the beginning of it. And Storvreta, it's a big club in floorball. And being patient and saying that you could probably help them even more, but giving that the Oscar and then wait for 1 year, that's incredible to just have that patience.
Yeah, and that's an important word that we'll probably come back to, actually, patience. I think that's very important.
All right, yeah. We'll definitely come back for that keyword. But before we, go further, I think it's a good time to actually more get into floorball. What, people that are, maybe you grew up in Sweden, Finland, Czech Republic, Switzerland, they may know of this sport. But for everyone that is listening, that is not like what floorball, what are they still talking about? Would you be happy to, explain a little bit what floorball is?
Yeah, sure. I can be pretty brief. We can start with, you've got a stick right behind you.
Correct. Yeah.
So that makes things easier. Yeah. Because, it's a stick sport, easily comparable to hockey, but there's no ice. And you kind of use a wiffle ball, which is a plastic ball with holes in it, and it's got empty inside. So it's a pretty light ball, and it's a very fun and fast sport, all ages, occasionally co-ed. It's interesting for me, of course, since I'm involved both in Sweden and the States, where the level is so different, and seeing it grow in the state. But I digress. Quite simply, it's hockey without the ice, plastic sticks, and a wiffle ball.
And to fill in for everyone that is listening, right now where I'm sitting, I have in the back, I have a floorball stick with me. So there's probably going to be a picture that you can see probably from, either my personal Instagram, or it could be on either of the social media accounts, but you will have that in the description later for this episode, so you can find out more about how it looks like, and hopefully we can add in a video of how it looks like, what the sport is about, but maybe images as well. And also then you can get more of the picture what the ball is like as well. It's very light. I can for sure agree on that one. And also, when you're talking about this, I guess for the listeners and also the ones that are watching, you're mentioning it's a little bit like hockey, but I guess it's not on the ice, and then you running with your like indoor shoes to be fair.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. And for you, you were mentioning floorball, America and Sweden.
Yeah.
And we are also going to go into this a bit more about the American, the context and development of floorball in the States.
Yeah.
But more about what you do today. Now there have been different and very unusual times during 2020. But how does a day look like for you?
It varies a lot. Usually, like I was talking about, I check social media feeds, I check my email, then I'll either probably edit a video or write down an interview and plan for the day ahead. And occasionally I'll have shoots, so I go out somewhere and I do a little filming, or I have that in the afternoon/evening. The Storvreta SSL team usually practices relatively early, around 4 or so, which is early for a floorball team. Where the women's team, for example, don't practice usually until more around 6 or 7. So, basically, usually I'll gather kind of content the night before, and I'll post something from the practice or the game, and then the morning after I'll finish working off with that stuff, and then working on planning the next coming cycle of stuff. Of course, after games it can be usually quite late with the highlights and whatnot, and but I do have a very free role, and I thank Storvreta for that a lot, where it's more important to get things done than exactly working. I don't work office hours, and I say often that there are positive sides to that and negative sides to that. Where the positive is I can control a lot of my own time, but sometimes it kind of flows over the entire day. So sometimes it can be hard to just stop working, which is also part why I'm looking forward to vacation, taking time off and trying to see if I can put away my phone. I think I've been quite good with it so far. It's over there, but I'm not going to.
Yeah, I got it. So as you're mentioning as well, there could be different times for you and with work when it comes to game days and just normal on game days, so to say.
Yeah.
So there are home games, away games. Do you follow along with both men and women team, or how does that look like on a game day, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I mainly work with the SSL team, the Swedish Super League team, and I go to a lot of their away games, not all. Here in Sweden, I mean, it's a matter of bus. So we take the bus basically everywhere. And when there are flights, usually I don't get to come along due to budgetary restrictions. That's fine. And I try to cover as many of the women's team's games as possible. I've been also to a few women's teams away games, but then I've usually driven myself, and it's been kind of close by Uppsala, since I've got a lot of games in the Stockholm area. Because the Storvreta's team in the Swedish Super League, 6-time Swedish champions and whatnot, while the women's team play in, I'm not sure what the English word would be, but if you translate, it's called the Old Swedish, which is the second highest division. They have yet to capture all the gold medals, so it's natural that the men's team get a little more coverage.
Yeah. And I saw that they did do a big signing though for the women's side for the upcoming season. Could you briefly maybe give the context to this player?
Yeah. So Storvreta's team, women's team in the second highest division, signed what is probably, the all-time best women's player, Anna Wik, which was a very, very exciting signing, of course, and was quite a bit of work, of course, for me on the content side, and I was very concerned to give it the kind of attention it deserved, and there was a lot of hush hush around that reveal, and so I released the video, among other things, on that I worked up to about 10 minutes before the release. So I met her at the hotel next to the arena, because she was going to be presented to the players. So I met her at the arena and did some filming and did some interviews and stuff, and got everything set for the big release. Anna Wik, probably, right now, the best women's player in the world, quite frankly. So that's great.
Yeah, that was incredible. I heard some rumors, but then when it's actually officially confirmed, and seeing her not participating on the highest level in the women league in floorball in Sweden, that was like, whoa, really? But it's very hard for me to imagine how that must mean for you, working with the whole content production. Like, now it has to be
Exactly.
as best as it could be.
That was really stressful. Actually, I was in a meeting with her before, and we took some pictures and stuff and some videos out, I believe, by Hammarby Sjöstad. But I wasn't quite happy with that, especially with the release like that. You want everything to be perfect. I don't think it was perfect. I think it was what we might get to good enough, which I hate to be in such a situation. But after considering the possibilities I had, I think I handled it pretty well. And also for the general audience, she will also be assistant coach for the team. She'll be playing assistant coach, which is new. And also she used to play then in Kais Mora, and she moved to Stockholm. So it wasn't a matter of playing with Mora anymore. And I know she didn't want to play in any other SSL team than Mora. And then I guess we contacted her, and the rest is history.
Yeah, cool. We can probably share some images or videos from what you put up from her, and then people can
Okay.
maybe we can add in some highlights from Anna as well to just understand the volume and this,
Yeah.
how important she is.
Yeah, that sounds good.
And maybe this is the answer to my next question. Is more about, is there anything special that you are extremely proud of from all your work that you've been through, from all the content that you made?
Well, it's hard to pinpoint, and I kind of feel like, I'm getting better, hopefully, as time goes along. Right now, the answer would actually be the intro film I did for the Storvreta's men's team for this past season. Because it's hard if you don't follow Storvreta, maybe it isn't that big of a deal. But for those who follow, because I had a former player, Storvreta, he played in Storvreta his entire life, played in most SSL games of any player, I believe, Jesper Berggren, and it was his final season, the previous season. So I had I filmed at his house and had him look over his gold medals and then go to the arena. And he comes to the arena and he meets up with other old Storvreta legends. He meets them outside the arena. And then we have a connection, a theoretical connection between him and the team captain, Mattias Samuelsson, who's inside in the dressing room. And they kind of have a theoretical connection there before Storvreta. And it took me all summer just thinking about that and, just the details and how to do it. And I don't know if one ever feels one gets all the way there, but I thought I got at least 90% of what I was kind of seeing in front of me. And I even get a little emotional just thinking about it because I just, Actually, not too far long ago, one of the SSL players told me, "You're not going to top that intro." You're not going to, so I'm starting to try to think of next year's intro with that one.
And for everyone who's listening, I can tell you Adam is shining up with a big smile. So definitely you can see that he's very proud of this. And, for those that are working with content, but also everyone else that is, work as best as they can, I guess, getting the understanding of how early on you need to think of these ideas, because you were saying they were some month before you actually did it. So, or before it was, launched. How can you think about it? Why was that idea the best one? Or, how did you get that inspiration?
That's a good question. That's one of those creative things where it's hard to force. And this came through. I had the basic idea pretty quickly, and then it's just all a matter of the details. What angles to use. Should you be some slow-mo? Should all the details? And I find it's like with any other ideas. It's like I said, it's really tough to force. As if you get 5 minutes to this. That can be tough. Sometimes you get an idea, and that you're spot on immediately, and then you just kind of run with it. And other times you just kind of mold it and work with it. It's like, with writing a script or something where it goes through 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 different revisions. So I think, I don't know, you just gotta, and I follow other accounts and I watch all kinds of things, and seems hard to find good intros. I don't know if I could get better at searching YouTube, but just to get inspired and to try to find something we might well get back to, of course, is storytelling. You always talk about storytelling in when you create content, and with this intro film, which is actually on YouTube, I got the idea for the story and then worked through that. Because of that, I don't know if you've seen a lot of intros. A lot are montage of trainings or game highlights, and many of those are real good, definitely. But I think it becomes, you can take it to the next level if you can find a story around it. So I don't know if I lost your question there somewhere, but
no, but I think everyone that is listening and watching can at least see the excitement when you're talking about this, and we can for sure add in add in the intro to this episode. And also for those of you that are watching or listening, if you have some good examples or inspirational intros, please send those to Adam. We will get the contact information in the end of this episode. So think about it already. If you have any, try to find it as soon as possible. And when you hear watching this, Adam will be so happy to get that inspiration.
Definitely. Thanks.
Cool. So that was a little bit more about what you're doing, and I think the core of this whole podcast is about the passion, and especially passion in sports. And in this context, it's for you, and the sport is floorball. And this could be a little bit tricky. I'm trying to find a good sense of it, but trying to understand why you have this passion. It's about trying to discover, for everyone that is listening, watching, how can they identify themselves and find their true passion. And I'm trying to turn these questions into the simple method of why, how, and what. So basically, you've already got into it, but could you please elaborate more about why you have a passion for floorball?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I've been thinking about that a lot, and it's hard to pinpoint a specific, this is what it is. I think, and actually a lot of my life has been kind of things happen by accident. I fall into this, I fall into that, and floorball, I got into floorball, for me, pretty early. And I started playing floorball, and I just had fun with it, and I kind of carried it from there. And as probably many will say, I mean, it's about the people you meet, the people you get to know, the relationships that you create. And yeah, I just think it's a really fun sport, and it was also an opportunity, since it wasn't a very established sport. It has given me opportunities. I mean, that I don't think about enough. But I mean, I've been across the world. I've founded a association in the States, and I've played on the national team, and just, yeah, it's just a fun sport that has given me the opportunity to both work and to create things, and just on so many different levels. So a very not very straight answer, but it's just a fun sport that has given me a lot of opportunities.
So yeah, and I understand it's not the easiest question you can try to answer, but if I then turn to more question of how you identify that feeling, you were mentioning a little bit about the social interactions, but if you try to look into how you identify the feeling.
I mean, I'd say it's there's that saying, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. I think it's that. I mean, when you sit down with something, and if you're just working with it, I mean, nothing or few things are going to be fun all the time. But if you just enjoy what you're doing, I mean, then I think you've found it. And also, there's of course there's the adrenaline rush that comes with a win, and there's the feeling when you post something that you're very proud of, that you worked very hard on. I can't say that I've actually identified, this is my passion, this is the feeling, but it's more like a continual thing. Yeah.
I mean, it seems like you have found it in some way. It's more about, you're not stopping with what you're doing. So it seems like you're very into it. So yeah, sure. I mean, I'm saying it's a very hard question, but I think for everyone that is listening and watching, you can probably get a sense of it, that there are some sort of moments emotional. It could also be just that feeling of excitement, either before or after the actual action.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. There have been many emotional moments for me through the years. As a player with the national team, it took me about 5 years to create the men's national team. And the first game was against Belgium. And when the national anthem was playing, I was close to tears. And I've covered the Swedish floorball championships that Storvreta have played, where you just really feel it. And there's one I covered down in Malmö where we lost, and I just kind of fell to the floor. It was totally exhausting. We lost, and I'm pretty sure it's overtime, so it was extra exhausting. You get emotionally invested in the teams you cover, especially the ones you covered close, and of course when you're playing or coaching. So yeah, there's a lot of emotions involved.
Yeah. And since you already mentioning it, let's look into a little bit more about the American floorball. How,
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned you have this obviously the connection from the family with the States, but could you give us a little bit more about why, starting up floorball in the States, and how did you go about it? Because you actually created the association for floorball in the States.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, you'll have to cut me off if I take too long, but it was actually an egotistical reason that I started it from the beginning, because I started playing floorball and I saw that Caltech Floorball had written that they could have played against Singapore and could have beat Singapore, so let's do a U.S. national team. So I just sent them an email saying, "Hi there, I'm a American goalie in Sweden. If you need a goalie for the U.S. national team, I'll be there." I said, "Oh, great. Well, good to know. We've heard from another goalie, but we'll get in touch if something happens." And probably a couple of emails over the years. 2 years later, I'd say, nothing had happened. So I contacted them again, and so what's up? Do we have a national team coming? And it turned out that they were a lot of students, so they lost interest. Some had graduated, and so there wasn't that much interest. So then I kind of asked, okay, but could I create a national team? So I actually didn't ask them. It was more I asked myself, what would be required. So I looked on the IFF, International Floorball Federation website, and there was a guy listed as USA Floorball as the association. So there's an address, an actual site. Snail mailed him a letter asking, what's up. I never got a reply. And I checked with other people, and nobody had been able to contact this person. Later, I heard a rumor that he didn't know that he was registered as USA Floorball. So I don't know what was up with that. But anyway, so I went back to Caltech and I said, "Can you be USA Floorball? If I ask the IFF, can we say that you are USA Floorball and the president of Caltech at the time, Freddie Hansen, and you're the president of USA Floorball? And then you, as USA Floorball, can sign up a national team for the World Championships, so that I can then, if I create the national team." And I was actually looking through my emails, and it looked like I hadn't got a reply as all caps. "I need to know, can I?" So anyway, he said yes, and I talked to the IFF, and the IFF said, fine, because of course everybody in floorball wants USA Floorball to grow. So, and I got from Caltech, I got a list of clubs, known contacts in the States playing floorball. And there was one guy I talked to in California laughed at me because I was saying, "Do you have any American floorball players who are willing to pay for their own trips to Europe to play at the World Championships?" That he was kind of skeptical. And I put up a website as well, USA Floorball. Contacted the local district here in Uppland, post things looking for American players. I believe it took 5 years. I probably started in 96. I wrote it down here somewhere. And I believe the first World Championships, I think, were in 2002. I'd met one of the players beforehand. So there was on the local district floorball website, there was a poll. Do you think Adam will be alone in Finland, or will the players come there? And 100 out of 200 thought I'd be alone in Finland, that the players wouldn't come. But they all came. They all had a blast. And from that, which was then, a long time ago, I just kept on. I stayed on, of course, as general manager of the men's team. And I'm also then executive director of the USA Floorball Board. And out of necessity, I've worked with the website and the social media parts and that. And I played in 3 World Championships and a qualifier or 2. So I was a player of the game against Australia. And that's a good memory from the first World Championships. And it's just kind of rolled on from there. I'm actually right now in the we've just selected the first round of players for the World Championships in December in Finland. But we're of course keeping an eye on that to see if that will be completed or if they're going to have to move it or not. So yeah, that was actually a pretty short version of it. But anyway, that's how it came about.
Yeah, wow. I mean, a great story to hear about, and amazing to now we're actually getting back to what you also said about earlier, coming back to patience as well.
Yeah.
I mean, just thinking about how it is, how that would be working today, you know, snail mail, and, you know, the whole communication part of it,
Yeah.
that you can have on the International Floorball Federation's website, a
Yeah.
person that is not even aware of being part of it.
Yeah.
And all of that. And since you are, you know, a goalkeeper, this get me thinking about, you know, in a new national team, being the one that is, you know, guarding and protecting the most dearest defending thing you have in floorball, which is the goal, and not making sure anyone is scoring on you.
Yeah.
How was that, you know, being, did you think about that before playing, and then like, okay, we're gonna have a national team, but what you know, national teams are we gonna compete against, and you know, how strong are the other ones, and all of things like that.
Definitely. Actually, me and the guy that I have met, we went before the World Championships. We actually went to Belgium to a floorball tournament where the Belgian floorball national team was playing, and we actually met current IFF General Secretary Jan Liljelund in Belgium and talked to him, and we watched the team, and we looked at what teams we were going to face, and we actually said, you know, Belgium, we got to beat Belgium, otherwise we shouldn't be here. Sorry, Belgium. That was early days for you as well. And we did, I think we beat Belgium in their first game 10-2, I think. So that was a good feeling.
Yeah. I can bet that. That must be a really good one, especially a nervous one, but still, you know.
Oh yeah, I wonder if it was against Belgium that I think one of the goals was just, you know, like a high ball, and I was just gonna catch it, and it kind of bounced just before I was gonna catch it, and ended up going in. Yeah, that's not as fun a story, but part of the game.
And I guess we can probably talk more about this but I guess one of the questions is that what has been the worst experience and the best experience so far with the American team?
With the American team, just a quick that'd probably be either that, letting that easy goal in, or like, you know, there's been games where I've thought I was going to play and I didn't get to play because even as general manager, it was always tough, of course, because I'd come and I'd be general manager and I'd be on the team. But I always told the coaches, you know, just choose who you think should play. And there were games that I didn't get selected that I was pretty pissed off, and I didn't always handle it in the best of ways. That was some lows. Highs, I mean, like I mentioned, also from the first, of course, hearing the national anthem for the first time, it got me real emotional. And one other high, of course, when we made the World Games, we beat Canada. I think it was 1-0 in the playoffs at the World Championships. We beat them pretty badly during the regular group stage of the World Championships, but then it's just 1-0, and we made it to the World Games off that 1-0 win. That was pretty good. Another bad one actually is when I was just the general manager. I don't remember if that's the same one, where we were so close to beating Germany, and we let in this kind of soft goal with like a second to go. One of their defenders did a coast to coast, and if we would have beat Germany, we would have faced Sweden, and I think it was quarterfinals, and it would have been broadcast in Sweden. And I'd actually met a couple of the Storvreta players, because several Storvreta players play on the Swedish national team. And I met them, I don't remember if it was before the game or if it was after the game, and they're like, we really would have liked to have faced USA, because, I mean, we faced Germany so many times, so it would have been great to face USA. And yeah, it would have been great to face. Even, of course, as we saw in the World game, no, I don't think, did we meet? Yeah, anyway, we would have gotten our ass kicked by Sweden, but it would have still still been a real fun game for Team USA.
Yeah, I can imagine. And they haven't met so far, or have they?
I don't think we met. Or I wonder if we didn't get our ass kicked at the World Games. I think we met Sweden at the World Games and lost quite largely. I'm kind of, some people remember all games very specifically. For me, it's just kind of there's so many games through the years.
Of course.
So kind of a mishmash.
Of course. Well,
Yeah.
we maybe can dig that up and see if there was any game, or if not, I hope that would be fun for you as well to see them compete in the near future.
Yeah.
And we're coming into this part where I have asked every guest to bring on some memorable sports object or thing.
Yeah.
And I'm very curious to see what you brought with you for everyone that is watching. We can probably see it soon, but please tell more for the listeners.
Well, actually, I've got more than one thing. That's cheating, I know. But I guess the basic thing is really my jersey from the first World Championships with Team USA. Should I bring it up?
Yeah, sure.
Which is actually kind of let's see.
Troy with number 26.
Yeah. It's actually made by Karhu, a stick company that I believe doesn't exist any longer.
Karhu.
They made the Legion of Doom. And this is a very Finnish thing, because this was, of course, it's just the vest they wear outside. But you see, this is the white side. Let's see how quickly I can do this. And they can just turn it around.
Okay.
And suddenly, it's your away jersey.
Well, I mean, that's a very innovative and with a sustainable mindset. That's maybe something that should be brought back, right?
That's pretty cool, isn't it? And here's, of course, the very old USA Floorball, our first logo.
Yeah. So everyone that's listening right now, Adam was just putting up on the camera the logo of this jersey as well. Is a very old one.
Yeah, it's a very first logo.
But it's an armless jersey.
Yeah, it's a vest, so you basically just kind of wear a sweatshirt. I'd wear a sweatshirt, and then I just bring this on, and then there you go.
Wow, and as a goalie as well, I mean, you might think as being a goalie, you need to have a lot of protections.
Yeah.
How is it with your arms, for example? You don't have any...
I'd actually even roll up my sleeves sometimes, which hurt, but I don't know, I got better feel for it. My other thing, since I mentioned it, was actually, I thought, let's see, I don't know if you can see all this. It's an unintentional collection, but it's kind of fascinating.
Okay, so Adam is right now trying to bring forward a lot of accreditation, if I can understand that right.
Yeah, exactly. Which is kind of fun, because it just started with, I have a place, I just hang it off when I got home. It wasn't, I never thought I'd collect them. But it just got more and more. But it's part of, the kind of crazy, how much different places and things.
So that's from like all the championships?
It's from championships, the Floorball Champions Cup, World Games. I believe I've got, let's see, what's this one? Storvreta from Rhodos 2015. There's something. Now I'm getting way out there. This one's kind of fun, of course. The Swedish Floorball Championship Press in 2003.
All right.
So it's all kinds of crazy stuff. But it's just that kind of, so many different events, so many different places.
I guess that's the medals for the one that is working outside of the pitch.
Yeah. And it's always interesting. Of course, it's getting better now, but for a long time it'd be interesting because I both have a media accreditation, so I can take pictures, and I have a team accreditation since I was the general manager, or I am the general manager. And it would confuse some security guards, since there's areas the team can go but media can't go, and areas the media can't go but the team can't. So it'd be like, what what's going on here? It mostly gone well. Had some issues around that.
Mhm. Yeah, I bet. Well, I mean, and that was why I brought with me. I felt I needed to add in some element of this discussion or this episode today with bringing one of my sticks that I play with. I myself have played the Floorball, and for me, that's a. I'm not gonna talk a long story here, but it's a fat pipe stick, and it's a very special one where it's some kind of like a snake version with a special format on the stick. So I always get some emotional feeling when I'm playing with it or just watching it, because it's not a normal stick that everybody is playing with. So it's very easy for me to feel there was some uniqueness with it.
Oh, that's nice. A nice story. I like fat pipe. I've had a few through the years when the few occasions I played out.
Yeah, and there's like tons of different brands for the sticks compared to maybe the normal sports brands that we all know from football, tennis, whatever.
Yeah.
So for you that are listening, watching, yeah, sure, you don't really recognize maybe the names in here, but maybe you will in the future.
Yeah, hopefully.
I think for both of us, I think the floorball should become more of an accessible sport and more a global sport. And there's a lot of things that we could probably talk about, but I think we should go into the last piece of this podcast, which what I would like to call overtime, the last pieces of the conversation.
Yeah.
And then I would like to ask you, looking back a little bit what we've talked about before, but if you would have started over today, what would have been your first steps getting into your passion of work?
I think it would be kind of what I actually did in many ways, which is, reach out to different clubs and see do they need help with anything and be willing to put in the work. Now, it's always, of course, a discussion. Should you work without getting paid or not? But in some scenarios, I think you have to. And of course, especially with floorball, probably should make this clear. I mean, I don't know if there's anybody else in the floorball world, at least in Sweden, that has a similar role that gets paid, to work with social media and the website. I do more stuff as well, of course, but that's my main focus. I'd probably try to contact clubs, see what I can do. Also contact, if I find people, and I even do that now, if I find people with similar jobs, I reach out, do you want to sit down and just discuss, how you handle things. And I mean, I've had meetings with Örebro Hockey. Actually, also had a sit down with the LA Kings just to talk about how they handle social media. And the Chicago Bulls, I talked to a guy there who's handled social media. And I just reached out through LinkedIn actually and asked, can we meet up and talk? And of course, I've reached out to many that haven't even responded at all, but some do. And so, yeah, I would reach out and see how I could help.
You were mentioning it's not maybe a lot of people that have your role within the Swedish floorball. So would you say you're more or less the only one with a content production role in floorball in Sweden?
Possibly. I know there are some that work with it a little bit. Albin Skud, I believe in Kalmarsund, works a little bit with it, and I believe there's someone in Falun possibly that works a little bit. But I think I'm probably the one, with the biggest role. I don't work full-time anymore since I worked with IFE for a bit, but more or less, I've for a long time had a full-time job as a content producer, basically, for Storvreta. And I do think that's pretty unique. I think, as with many clubs, more and more are waking up to the fact of how important social media is. So I think we will see more of this in the future. But also, of course, floorball is not a rich sport. So, I mean, some clubs have a tough time just having someone working for them to handle the day-to-day administration stuff. To try to find someone and be able to afford to have someone to handle content could be a far reach for many.
And maybe sorry.
No worries. I think possibly in the Czech Republic, it seems like they have more and more working towards this direction as well.
Well, I was just gonna ask you. Maybe it's hard for you to answer, but I will still ask you. Why do you think the clubs short financially, but why aren't they maybe putting in more energy into this area of work? And there's still everything from internships, but also you can maybe put in more of a trainee program where you actually have a reduced salary, but as you're saying, maybe the financial part is not there, but maybe you should still try to use as much as possible from the skills and the passion from the people that are actually want to do it.
Well, I think probably there are many reasons, but I'd say partially not everybody understands the importance. And partially, I think with many things, I mean, with voluntary people working with this, for many, they probably, I mean, they have more than enough just to try to keep up the day-to-day activities, with administration and the booking of times and finding of coaches and, all this. I think that takes up a lot of time, quite simply, and they maybe not, because just to try to find someone can take a lot of effort. And also, I think many maybe have been around a while, maybe don't quite grip of how important social media is and don't have that as a priority. I think that will change.
How can clubs realize it, or how can people that are great at content producing or would like to get involved? You were mentioning a bit, setting up meeting, but should they also, make just a reach out to every club and say like, hey guys?
Definitely. If you're interested, and I mean, just reach out to clubs. Some will be more receptive than others, I think. But if you say, I'll come to you, when do you want to meet? Oh, you have to have lunch. Where are you having lunch? I'll come join you there. Make it as easy as possible for them, and then take it from there and then put in the work. And I'm not saying that everybody will go, wow, we need to hire you. But if they don't, I'm sure you'll have learned something at least by doing it. Because that's how I learn best, I think, by doing things.
Cool. So now I have a short segment into this last part that I'm calling If Not. Mm-hmm. And basically, if you can't do this, what would you pick? So my first one is maybe an obvious one, but if you couldn't work with Floorball, what would you pick?
What I'd work with?
Yeah. If you couldn't work with Floorball, what would you work with in that case?
Oh, well, I'd probably work with general content creation, doing commercial work.
Mm-hmm. And if you couldn't work with video and camera, what would you do then?
I guess I'd go all in on photography, or doesn't that count?
Well, I was mentioning cameras. I guess that's that's not part of it. That's a trick one. So if you couldn't, maybe you're biased with when it comes to the American life and the Swedish life, but if you couldn't, pick those two countries, which country would you like to live in?
Live is a hard one since you're stuck there, but I do have a yearning to visit Australia and New Zealand, actually. I've been hoping to do that for a while, but due to costs, and of course right now you can't go very far, but sooner or later I hope to visit them, so I'd probably choose one of those two.
And the last one in this is, if not Storvreta, what team would you pick?
I'd have to say the U.S. national team. I know I kind of chickened out on that one, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it's fine. And, anything else you would like to share for other ones that are working in the same role as you or would like to become a content producer?
Well, I think is the stuff that we've talked about, really. I mean, patience and putting in the work, really. And perhaps, of course, maybe this is a given, but being aware of how much tutorials and stuff are available online, how much tools. I mean, just the internet, you've got so much at your fingertips. It's amazing. And I mean, and be aware that everybody doubts themselves at one point or another. They just got to put it out there and show everyone what you can do.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of resources out there. Maybe it's too much, actually. So it's very
sometimes it can be, definitely.
So the last question here for this podcast and video cast is basically about personal development. I always think for myself to get inspired by people, but I also think all of us are always striving for developing ourselves. So I'm just curious to see how you trying to develop yourself. Could be everything of, staying up to date with something, could be learning that instrument or, learning a new language. What is something that you're trying to
I
take
mean,
help from?
I'm very involved in social. I try to find interesting accounts, interesting people that also work with this, and try to follow their accounts and see what they post. And also, like we were talking about, just the internet resources. I do occasionally do courses. I've done filmmaking courses online and just kind of followed, and occasionally now I can do like a video on my own account without actually having be for Storvreta or USA Floorball, just to kind of test my creativity, test different techniques, and see what I can do with editing. And I do listen to podcasts. I actually listen mainly to filmmaking podcasts, actually, but there is one that's pretty good. Let's see, what was it called? I've got it here somewhere. Maybe I'll have to look at. I'll have to look it up later. Maybe you can link it.
Yeah, I was actually gonna ask you in the end if you also had any books or podcasts that you would recommend.
Yeah.
So unless you can, think of it right now, you're at least saying something.
I've got it written down that there's so much text. Is it in the end here?
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, here we go. For the filmmaking podcasts I listen to are Just Shoot It and Filmmaking is Hard. And there's a friend of mine who does a podcast, Two Guys, Three Crowns, about two American guys in Stockholm, which might be fun. But the one most specific, I think, for this is called Social on the Sidelines. They haven't updated for a while, but there are a couple there, which is, I believe, two social media people that work in the NBA that interview other major league social media people. And it's some very interesting discussions.
All right, yeah, we'll definitely link that in the description, so people that are watching or listening could be safe and sound, and then check it out later. And no particular books to recommend?
Actually, right now I'm actually reading Game of Thrones. I'm in the last one. When the series ended, we won't discuss how the series ended, but when the series ended, I felt, geez, can't be over. So I started reading the books, and now I'm actually probably 1/3 into the last one, and I keep looking, when was he going to finish the next one? But it seems to be a while, but unrelated to sports, of course. But I have read, there are a number of different books. I mean, Gary Vee, what can you say about that guy? He's got a couple. I've read a couple of his books that were interesting. Jab, 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 right hook.
Right. So Gary Vaynerchuk, for those that are not capturing Gary
Vee. Which is a very solid. I mean, there's not always this exactly how you do, but it gives you a very good sense, a general overview. And I think actually that actually the title is something that I've brought with me a lot when thinking about posting. Jab, 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 right hook. To not always be selling. You got to give, ask. I've had a few discussions with different marketing people who want me to sell more. I think I could probably step up my sales a little bit more, but yeah.
No, I think you summarize his concept and what he's trying to say very well. So do you have any questions to the audience, or a question you would like to get an answer about? Could be something that I might, find in the future guest, for example.
Yeah, I think my question would be, is there a social media post that has really grabbed you and kind of made you emotional or really got your attention, and why? Is there a piece of content that you can point to that, this really moved me? That would be interesting for me to see.
Mm-hmm. And that it goes to everyone that is listening and watching to this. And if you do, could be actually right now when you're listening, you might be like, oh, this one. Mm-hmm. So please send that to Adam, and he will for sure appreciate it.
Definitely.
And if anyone then would like, to read, or maybe I should rephrase that and say, watch and see what you actually are doing. how can people connect with you, and where could they find this information?
You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm open to connections there. If you want to just kind of check out my work, I'd probably say Instagram, Adam M. Troy. I guess there'll be a link in description. You can, of course, also check out the Storvreta IBK social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, as well as USA Floorball. I'm the same. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
And,
I mean, there's a lot of content, obviously, to get a hold of. So,
oh, definitely.
I think
Feel free to shoot me a question on LinkedIn, for instance, and I'll do my best.
Yeah, make sure to do that, everyone. And we will, for sure, as I was saying, add into all of these resources. There's tons of stuff here, but I will do as best as I can to wrap this up in the description, so you can be safe, no matter if you're watching or listening to this, to not miss out anything. Well, I think that was it. A lot of things to go through. But I also think, this sport that is not getting full attention, and I'm meeting a lot of people, and I always have to, let's step back a bit and explain. So I'm very thankful for having you on, and, listening to everything you've been through, from, one of the best team in the world with Storvreta, but also, founding the American floorball national team. It's also amazing to just have the chance to be part of. So huge thanks, Adam, for taking this time, sharing your experiences, but mostly sharing your passion.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. It's I'm often just behind the camera and don't get a chance to think about this stuff and talk about this stuff that much. So I appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. And for everyone, until next time, and make sure to create a great day, and also make sure to do something you enjoy. And with that said, I would like to close this off with a special Zoom goodbye that I've learned. You just put your hand on the camera like this, and that's a wrap. So thank you, Adam, and goodbye.
Thanks. Goodbye.